So, real quick, I, in this dream, Leela was with me and we were outside. And I don't know if we were at a park somewhere, but we were walking um, kind of like on a kind of like a hill, um, but not a really tall hill. Um, and but I knew we were outside because the grass was green and whatnot. And there were a lot of other people walking as well. And then all of a sudden, I noticed the people looking up at the sky, and they were started pointing and whispering amongst them. And so I decided to look up, and people were pointing out the fact that, and it was strange because it was daylight. At least I believe that it was daylight because the grass just seemed really bright and green, and you can't really see that at night, but I'm not sure. But anyway, they were pointing at the fact that there was one moon, and then they were looking off to the right and seeing that there was another moon, and then coming into view was almost like another earth right beneath it. And but it was different. It wasn't like, when you look at Earth from space, um, you see the blue and the green and obvious land masses and clouds. This planet was different. And so people were just like pointing and looking. And I believe that my older brother must have been walking with us as well. His name is Zaquel, which is Spanish for Zacharias. And so he is the oldest brother, and his nickname is Zach. And so I believe we must have gotten to a certain point in our walk, and he went to the left, and Leela and I went straight. And I remember calling him and saying, Zach, did you see that? Did you see that? And he was like, yeah, I saw. And I said, I told you. I've been telling you. And he just kind of laughed and he was like, yeah, I know, sis. And then the next scene was Leela and I were in a house, I believe. Don't recognize it. Not really 100% sure if it was a house, but there was a room, and my other brother, Isaiah, was in that room. He's the second to the oldest of my brothers. And he was asleep, and I wake him up, and I'm like, Isai, which is how we say his name in Spanish. I said, Isai, have you seen the news? Because at this point, it was like whatever this was, this second moon and another planet, it's like nobody was talking about it, and then all of a sudden, it was on the news everywhere. Even fake news, CNN was reporting it. Just kidding. And so I wake him up and I tell him, and I'm like, look. And so he's like, wow. And again, I tell him, you see, I told you. And then I also remember at one point calling my third brother. I've got 3 older brothers. That's it. I'm the youngest. I was the baby. Legend has it that my parents kept trying for a girl, and then when they had me, they stopped. Who knows? Anyway, I digress. Then I remember calling the youngest of the 3, and his name is Samuel. And I call him, and I'm like, Sam, he lives down in the valley, down in the Rio Grande Valley in McAllen, Texas. And so I'm saying, Sam, did you see that? Did you see on the news what's happening? And he's like, yeah, sis, I did. And I said, I told you guys that this was going to happen. And I remember that my biggest concern was, are we being pulled into the atmosphere of this thing, of this planet that happens to have its own moon? Or was it being pulled into our atmosphere? And my concern was, what's going to happen to us whether we get pulled into their atmosphere or whether it's getting pulled into ours. I know that usually when things hit our atmosphere, they kind of break up. And anyway, just remember that being my concern. And then I woke up about 30 minutes ago. So, very interesting. Might have been the Jack in the Box before going to bed, but I think not. I think it's interesting that I called all three of my brothers, like in order, from the oldest to the youngest, and that I was telling them, hey, I told you this was going to happen. So it could very well be a sounding of the alarm in a way. And so let's just be watchful and always be looking up, because our redemption draws nigh. And I pray that you guys have an amazing Sunday today. Spend time with your family, but most importantly, spend time in the Word. If you've never been used to doing it before, get used to getting in a place of intimacy with the Lord. Get into His Word and just let Him love on you and be in prayer. So just a reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings, I will go into prayer in the morning before I head off to work. So if there's anything that you need prayer for, please feel free to comment or email. I've given out my email in a previous video. God bless and have a good day.